So one of the things that is really important that we're going to go through, I'm going to take us through a 21 irrefutable laws of leadership by John Maxwell. So walk us through 21 weeks of this just to keep us focused on what we do here, which is building leadership opportunities for growth and peace of mind, right? That's one of our things to do. And so I'm going to talk about the law of influence today. We're going to have a little bit of a dialogue, and what this really means is leadership is nothing more than influence. We talked about that, getting people, it's the art of getting people. Remember Dan and Tom, what that was? People to do what? The thing that we believe needs to
what? Yeah, the art of getting somebody to do what you think needs to be done.
Yep. And the key word of want.
Want, yeah, that's right. Want to do.
Want.
Yeah.
So remember that's what we have to remember, is as you learn today, as in the law of influence, you could get people to do what you need to be done, and they can do it without the want. Okay. So I think that's important for us to remember, that influence, leadership is influence, no more, no less, but getting people to want to do it. And so we're trying to always move people in a direction that is mutually beneficial. Really remember that, because again, you could have a dictatorship, you could have an authoritarian approach, and you could just cram it and make it say do it or die, type of thing. But that's really not our model, right? That's not our culture. And so there's what he talks about is 5 levels of leadership. And it kind of goes in order, typically. They're generally built on top of each other. And the first one he talks about is the position level. And the position level is really all about title. Okay, so you got the title. I'm got people under me now. I'm a leader, and it's I'm a manager, I've got my title now. And so people have to follow you, right? It's their job that they're gosh, I have to follow this person. I don't want to follow him or her, but I have to. That's my job. And so I'm going to do it because that's what I get paid to do, but I don't want to do it. And a lot of people actually never move from this. We all have to start somewhere. We're going to have a position, got to have a title, but that's all about someone having to do that. So I'd love to hear from you guys. What have been your experience on position titles you've either had or experienced in the past where you had to follow somebody just because of their position?
It seems, I think it's the first thing that pops into mind with leadership is title. And I think that's just kind of, it's from a young age, it's embedded, the president leads the country because he's the president, the manager leads the company because he's the manager.
CEO
and I think that
leads because he's the CEO.
Yeah. And it's just, but I think that's kind of embedded from a young age on the whole leadership spectrum. Because even I was talking to my kids the other day about leadership and things like that, and Elise was just well, I'm a boss then. I'm the boss if I'm a leader. It's no, that's not what you are. It's a different thing.
That's true. Yeah, I think it's with the leadership aspect of you want to get people to do, you want them to want to do what you need to get done. So it's how do you lead and what does that look like? Because I've been in situations where I've had to follow someone that I didn't truly believe in as a leader, and it was inauthentic. It wasn't real. I didn't feel that attachment there. It actually it made me feel disengaged. I just didn't really feel like I was doing anything for the right reasons, or I wasn't following the right person, right? So that allowed me to kind of think like, all right, well, if I don't believe in this, and what is my purpose here? So I lost my purpose in the organization because I didn't feel like I had one. So, I think with job titles and all that, it's important, but also it takes a humility of someone to be able to have that job title, but then also understand I'm here to lead by example and to help people grow and develop beneath me, and hopefully take my job one day. Like that's how I think it should look at some, like within that, like I'm kind of doing word salad here. I'm trying to put the point across, but but I do think that like with the job title, it shouldn't really be like about the title. It's about the person and who they are as a leader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's, there's always a starting place, but if someone is their whole identity of a leader, is like, you have to do it because I said. Yeah, it's just that's not the way we want to lead people, is at the position level. So the second phase is really the permission level, where someone might have a position title, that's fine, but it's permission, meaning that it's all about relationship, and it's about people wanting to do it. Okay. So now we're at a whole different level of getting people to want to do what it is that needs to be done. Okay. That they have a desire to get it done because there's a relationship that has been fostered, and the person feels like they're cared about, right? That the person actually matters to them, that it's somebody that says, hey, this person actually cares about me and they matter to me. And so that is the permission level. And so that's what we want to aim for, is to be that kind of leader where we care about people. And even to the point, sometimes you care about them enough to say, hey, I don't think this is working out. But I care about you so much that we want to try to help you go somewhere else. You know what I mean? So just because that you have permission there, that person can at least leave, assuming there's reasonableness there, to get it and go, hey, I care about you so much. We might have you go somewhere else just because I think you'll do better there, right? You'll thrive somewhere else. So what do you guys think about the permission level?
I think I'm not going to argue with John Maxwell, but I think that's like the first level of leadership, to be honest. Like this could easily be 20, the 20 laws or whatnot. Because I think that that's where leadership begins. The title's just really just a title. Doesn't do anything other than press authority, I guess.
Yeah, position can be helpful if it's done with the right way. It's just it shouldn't be the end all be all. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
I think it's not like negative to have a
no.
title.
I think it removes the too many cooks in the kitchen sort of scenario. With a lot of people. But if you slap somebody in that spot that's just stops at that title level, then it's just a game over for everybody else, 100%. Unfortunately.
And that's what he's trying to say. He's saying position has to happen. It's not like bad. It's just if that's where you're ending and that's how you're leading from, that's like really bad.
Yeah.
So the permission just kind of layered on with that.
Yeah, there's also a way we have to be careful too, because sometimes I've heard this happen in the past too, where it's like, oh, Dan was so great until he became vice president. Now he's just totally different. Like he's not the same Dan prior. So, having that consistency of who you are as a person, leader, like, does that job change you, or were you putting on an act, right? The authenticity piece. So, and I agree. I think, caring about someone is sometimes saying, hey, this isn't probably going to work out, but we're going to help you along the way to find what does work, or, and I think we've done that really well here, specifically where there's not one person I think that we've had to have those conversations with that has not thrived in their next role because they actually were freed, so they're free to go be themselves and actually thrive in what they're meant to do. I actually got a text from someone. I know this is being recorded, so I won't say the name, but they
Yeah.
did a job. He was one of our guys that was an intern here, and he got a job, and he's really happy now. So I think it's huge that and all he could do was thank us for just giving
Mhm.
the opportunity to go and find something new. So
Yeah.
I think it's really special.
Yeah, it's good, Dan and Tom. Just we have to keep remembering that the relationship is, it's the core. If people have to really believe that you care about them and that you want to do something that is in their best interest, right? You really want to see them grow. You care about who they are, care about what it is that's happening in their life. It shows by your actions and your words. And so that's the permission level. The third level is production. So people want to follow people that get stuff done. So you could be super relational and you could have a title, but you just couldn't get stuff done. Right. And there's plenty of good friendships for that, right? Like that's not that's not a bad thing. It just, in the confines of leadership, we really have to focus on people. You got to follow people get stuff done because you want to follow people that are successful.
Mm.
I don't say, hey, I'm going to go to this conference to see this guy, and he's kind of like mediocre, what he does. You don't get up and, if you're trying to get to an 8 in your leadership and, you're maybe at a 6 or a 5, you're not going to go, gosh, I want to see someone that's like at a 4.
Yeah.
You're looking for people that get stuff done, that are going for it. They're not perfect, but they have a track record. They're successful. People. That's why I'm always pushing us to go higher, because then you're always going to get a couple of notches below you that want to get to where you're at, right? But you got to be successful. Otherwise, no one's going to follow you when all is said and done, and then you're not a leader. So you got to have production. Position, permission, and production. So thoughts on production?
Yeah, I think it's really important because you also, at the end of the day, you're a leader, so you're guiding someone to thrive in a way that maybe they've never seen before. So if you're incapable of doing that, then it's going to be really hard for them to buy into what you're trying to do too as their leader. So you don't want to be led by someone you don't respect or have any kind of confidence in their ability to execute either. So that's where there's that fine line of ensuring that there's an emotional intelligence, the production side, they're able to actually do the job that they're guiding you to do, but then also treating people with respect too. So
100%.
Yeah, I think it's down to you don't want to follow somebody who is asking you to do something that they can't do themselves in a way.
Yes.
If you're following climbing the mountain and the mountain guide's like, well, I've never actually done this, you're like, well,
it's like, what?
Maybe not.
Yeah.
But if he's like,
it's
I've done,
the surgeon on the
surgeon
on the table. And he's like,
is this your first time too?
Done this. Oops.
Oh,
sorry,
man.
what was that thing called? The scalpel?
Hand me the cutty thing. That's what I would name it, because I'm great at naming. Hand me the cutty.
Tom, cutty thing. Oh.
The sharp cutting.
No, it's true. It's true though. You've got to be able to get stuff done, and you've got to show that you've done things. Again, not perfect, but permanent. And people need to show that things. That there's a way to be able to show you how things get done, right?
Yeah.
The fourth level is people developing. Okay, this is when you really start to get into the growth of your leadership. Is now you're in people developing. You're getting stuff done. You're getting permission, you're developing relationship, you're at a position level, but now you're hitting the compound effect. So now you're pouring into other people that are eventually going to pour into other people, to pour into other people. So it's just that it's constant duplication factor of growing right? I mean, I'll just use an example like of just based on our faith, but the history of the Christian church was based on Jesus started with 12 guys.
Yeah.
And then they poured into more and more and more. And now they've huge church all over the world. Started with 12 guys. Okay. So, he led the way on modeling, pouring into people, pouring his life out, them pouring into other people, and so on and so forth. And that's that handing the baton that we talk about so much, which is like, you got to work yourself out of a job and you'll always have the job for your stuff. Right.
Mhm.
But if you're trying to preserve your job, then you're really not an effective leader.
Yeah.
And you should be concerned if you're in preservation mode. You're trying yourself out of a job, then you're adding tremendous. And so again, position level, permission level, production, and then people developing. So any thoughts on the people developing you guys want to speak into?
Yeah, I think that's probably like a level. I know you're saying like, that position level is probably a lot of people don't move past
You guys
that.
hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us? Can you hear me, Dan?
Yeah, I hear you.
Guys?
Yeah, we can hear you, Dave. Can you hear us?
Dave just went to mute though.
Oh,
Oh, there he is. Now you're off mute. Right there, Dave.
Can you hear me, Dan?
yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, I can hear you now. Sorry. I don't.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I was saying that I think that I know you said like, that position level is probably a spot where few people move past, on the leadership. I think this is probably another one of those like gatekeepers that a lot of people don't move past.
100%.
Where they, because I think it's like a pivot point. I think each of those are like a pivot point, like position, you have to really pivot and change your mindset to actually start leading. And then this is another one where it's a pivot point. You have to change your mindset to actually start helping somebody grow and not be afraid of,
100%.
losing your position level. So
Yeah. You're right. It is. And to start pouring into people, it's a lot of work. And it might not work out.
Yeah.
So you could potentially, we've seen that, right? You could potentially spend a bunch of time and it may not work out. And so people, a lot of people I know, super successful in their production, but they'll never move to the people developing, which means they'll never really have the expansion because they're not willing to take the risk of pouring into people because they have a short-term cynical view of people, where they feel like, well, that was a waste of time. It's like, it's never a waste of time if you really are doing it the right way. And certainly you have to do a good job of picking the right person. You're not going to do that perfect. And you learn each time you go, but it's not a waste of time because you learn something every time. Go, oh my gosh, I learned something new. I won't do that next time, right? So people developing is critical if you want to grow in your leadership. You cannot really get to where you need to go without this.
I agree. I think developing others is such a key leadership trait because if you can't do that, then how do you expect for people to believe in you to guide them, right? So it's like the people that have invested in me in my career, I've always remembered them as people that I looked up to, right? I remember in a very positive way because they had the hard conversations with me. They taught me the things I didn't know, right? And they were willing to take that time. And there's also something to be said about teammates that want to grow in their careers. They're going to be looking at you for that shining light, right? It's like, hey, how is Dan going to help me get to this next level? Or how is Dave or Tom? And what is their true investment in me in order to get there? Because nowadays, even in our interviews, where the most common question I hear is, what is the growth opportunity here? It's like, what am I going to be doing after this, right? So that's the number one question I've been asked. Almost every candidate asked me that question. So it shows that people have that true desire to learn and grow. And if we're not giving them that, they're not going to stay. So
Yeah, 100%, Dan, is that
Mm.
we want to create leadership opportunities that provide growth and peace of mind, right, for 5,000 people. So think about that's our goal. That's our vision, is we want to keep building these opportunities for people to grow and give them the desire they want and to fulfill it for them.
Yep.
So the final thing is that you got position level, permission level, production level, people developing, and then the final one is just the pinnacle. And this is really when you've been doing all four of these things consistently over time, honing your skills. And eventually it's just something that happens where you get elevated to a status that you just get to have more and more influence and more impact because you really did these things well, right? You had a position, you were a permission kind of person, you cared about people, you wanted to pour into them, you were able to get things done so that people said, well, we go to that person, they get it done. And then you were in the people developing business. You just do that consistently for a long period of time. And eventually your influence expands further than you ever thought it would go. And it goes deeper than you ever thought it would go. And you get to go reaching into places that you never thought would be able to get reached. And that's when things get exciting, because you go, oh my gosh, I just have, held the plow for a long period of time, stayed consistent. And over time, that started to have a broader impact for the benefit of other people. And again, it's not about getting there so you can have power, because that is certainly someone's aim, but it's really about saying, how many lives can I impact? Because pouring out is the heart's desire when all is said and done. So that's really the law of influence, guys, is just remembering that the first law, okay, the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, is the law of influence. And so that's what we wanted to go through today. So good job.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave.
That was good. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about what we have going on for the week. In fact, before we do, I want to make sure that we quickly